All right. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Dan, good morning. Thank you. I'm in way out of my base right now. I'm at one of the 5 or 6, I don't know, Jackson hospitals. I've been scanning people for the last couple of days. And I've been down here to come and scan the nurses and the doctors as well. So today is Friday, November 4. Obviously, the slaughterhouse of failure is not in our destiny. We will persevere until we succeed. Today, we're going to be talking about what you don't see. We're going to be talking about all the stuff that goes on that people can't really see. And it applies to a lot of things, but specifically, we're going to start talking about mushrooms. That was Dan's choice about the mushrooms. And I thought it was an excellent choice. And it refers to everything like an iceberg and plants and everything else. So thank you.
Yeah, so when I actually was reading an article yesterday about mushrooms and how they have a huge network of roots called a mycorrhizal network underground, and that's what we don't see. What we generally see is just the fruit, or the actual mushroom. But we're unable to see all of that network of roots that in sometimes can be, tens of miles large, square miles large. And what they do is through these networks, they don't just nurture the mushrooms, but they also nurture the trees in the forest to help exchange water and nutrients with one another and all of these other things. And the older trees, or hub trees as they call them, have deeper networks of roots, therefore more access to resources to pass on to other trees. And so, I was thinking about this, and it's very similar to our business, right? We need to set down roots. We need to create a base. We need to create a foundation for our business. But if we don't do anything to kind of grow that network, grow those roots, and nurture the trees within our network, which are our distributors, our team members, our surgeon customers, our physician customers, I should say, and our customers. So we need to figure out how we can continually be nurturing those things within our network to really help our network not only our foundation flourish, but our entire organization flourish. So we need to have ways that we can onboard properly other people within our organization, how we can get them and show them what we're doing to help them be successful, giving them the nutrients that they need to grow their business. And so we're a lot like this mycorrhizal network within our business. And Lawrence had a great video he did a while ago about an avocado seed that he was growing, 2 different avocado seeds. And the 2 different avocado seeds, one flourished, had an excellent network of roots, and the other one kind of died on the vine. Same exact environments, but one was getting nurtured by something or had the strength to grow in that environment, and the other one didn't. And so I thought that was, really really hits home with me about what our business is, because we do have people that die on the vine and we do have people that flourish, right? And so I think we need to adopt a mindset of figuring out what it is that makes some people flourish and what makes other people not flourish, not only in this business, but in life.
Yeah, and in fact, on that example of the avocado, you can actually see the root system, which is on the one that is flourishing, is actually doing very well. There's a big root system there, and that is basically how we operate our business too. It's all about the root system. It's about initially the 4 legs of the table. To be a Ruby, for example, we need the 4 board of directors. Those are the 4 people that we start with. Yeah. So so there's an example. Thank you, Dan. Where on the right.
Quick. Yeah, I can play the video quick. Let me play the
that's
video.
That's fine. Oh, okay, good. Thank you.
Of success and failure. Success is the one that persevered and formed a network of roots, and therefore a total success. And the other one that simply gave up. This one just gave up and died. They were planted on the same day in the same situation. One died because they gave up, and this one has complete success because it formed a network of roots and is therefore a total success. There's a team elite, and there is a, well, sorry.
So, I like that video because, it really does show that if something is nurtured, that it can really flourish. But by the same token, I want to, it didn't necessarily die because it wasn't in the right, it died because it wasn't in the right environment, right? It didn't have what it needed to flourish. And we need to start giving our team members, people that we bring into the business, a little bit more information, more nutrients, whatever it is that they need to flourish. And we also need to start doing that for our physician customers, right? How do they keep their patients engaged? And I know, I don't really want to go too deep into it, but Stephen's been hard working on a lot of things to help nourish these physician patients, right? And so, there's a lot that we can do to help this business grow. It's just giving all of the different parts of this business what they need to flourish.
And one of the things that as you were talking, Dan, that occurred to me some time ago. I had a distributor who was very successful in another company. And when she eventually became a brand rep, and then she eventually became a Ruby, she said, you haven't really made me feel like I've achieved anything. It should be a parade. It should be, we should be celebrating and make a wow thing out of the fact that through the effort, we've got somewhere. And I thought about it, and I thought, well, we have to consider everybody all the time, and it's human nature. So for me, I don't need the rah-rah, but other people may. Not the rah-rah, but just, little sort of public recognition and encouragement. They do that at the company with the event, the conventions, and so on. But I think individually, we've got to do that too. We've got to encourage and stay on the people that are taking a supplement, see how they go, follow them, how you feel, what's the difference, how did you improve, what was your score? All of these things are at least a personal touch, empathy. And I think this is something I need to do more. And it's just about being able to be more empathetic and that human contact to encourage people to keep going forward and to prosper and to feel good about what they're doing.
One of the things that's interesting, going back to the mushrooms and these mycorrhizal networks, is that there's some research that shows that trees communicate through these networks. And what they can do is they can send distress signals to each other so that resources can be diverted to those in need. So, I'll give an instance. So if you have a small tree that's growing under a canopy, it's not going to get the amount of light that it needs to, create photosynthesis, to have that whole process happen. And so because all the larger trees, these hub trees are taking all of the sunlight. So what they can actually do, what they're finding, is that those hub trees can actually divert some of their resources to these smaller growing trees that aren't able to get the light, so that they can flourish, even though they're not getting that sunlight. So, so all of these things are interconnected, right? And they connect each other so that they can use each other's valuable resources that they need to flourish. And our business is a lot like that, right? Some of us have our strengths, some of us have weaknesses. And so those of us with the strengths need to be available to those that may not have those strengths, to utilize those strengths to grow their business, but also to help them cultivate those strengths within themselves and their organizations. So, there's this whole idea of these mushrooms and these mycorrhizal networks. It's about building a network and building a tribe, right? And that's basically what we're doing in this business. We're trying to build an organization that's a tight-knit organization. Somebody made the comment about Steven's haircut. And he's like, you know what? You really know we're becoming good friends and stuff, and we've got this tribe when you notice that somebody else got a haircut. We're spending a lot of time together. So we should be doing that with our organizations to the point where they notice those small differences, right? If they're not noticing those small differences, then maybe we're not spending enough time to help them be together, to help them be successful.
Jed, getting back to the mushroom, and I agree with you, Dan, that's all about the empathy and being awareness. But getting back to the mushroom, earlier this year, my wife and I went looking for mushrooms in Italy. And we went, because she's a dog lover, so we wanted to go and look for truffles. So we went and we looked for truffles, and the guy gave us a whole course on the whole area, which he kept secret from every other truffle hunter, because he knows that the trees there communicate, and the truffles are all communicating within each other, with themselves over there. And I thought he was talking, a lot of poppycock. I thought, what? Come on, man. How do truffles communicate? And he said, no. He said, look, I've been doing this thing for 50 years. And he said, I know exactly what happens. That the trees, actually, specific types of trees have their root system. They communicate within the root systems, and the truffles prosper in certain areas. And these are areas. And then he would pick out a truffle when the dog found one, and then he would take some of the soil and sprinkle it somewhere else, so that it would be a confusion for the dogs to come in his area. So it would confuse the dogs because they're so smart. So the point is, you're quite right. There's a whole network of activity that we don't even understand, we don't even see, but that's what goes on. And when we talk about trees and roots and all this kind of stuff, we're talking about carbon, we're talking about putting carbon from the soil, then carbon monoxide, the photosynthesis of the plants. Everything goes on there, and we don't even see what's going on, but it's really happening. And this is our business too. We just see us talking here and saying hi and everything else, but in the meanwhile, we're all busy working and creating a tribe of people who hopefully will thrive with what the system is and what we have.
Absolutely. And these networks are vitally important to our business, but we can have the biggest network in the world, but if we're not engaging people within our network, you're never going to succeed. And I think social media, the social media side of our business can really teach you that very, very quickly. If you're engaging with people through Facebook, but you're not spending a lot of time engaging with others, and you're just posting, and people aren't seeing your post, you're not going to be successful. So you need to cultivate that network by engaging with that network, whether it's through social media or whether we're engaging with our physician distributors or our people that we sponsored into the business. If we're not engaging with them, then the network doesn't matter. Right? You can have 30,000, 50,000 connections on LinkedIn, but if you're not engaging with anybody, it doesn't really matter. Right? So you need to create that engagement. So what I'm interested in, and the reason that we get together on these calls, a lot of times is we hear Lawrence and myself talking, but what I want to know from some of you is, what are you doing to engage your teams? What are you doing to engage your physicians? And is there anything that we can do to help our physicians engage with their patients? Because that's ultimately going to be how we grow the business. So I'd like to hear some comments and, on what you all are doing to create that engagement within your networks to nurture your business and your organization.
Don't speak at once now.
Yeah, I can go. I've been doing Ruby calls. All my scan operators, I get them on a call, just try to do 30 minutes, not real lengthy, but it's an accountability call. What success did you have in the last week? What one thing can you do next week to propel your business forward? And what questions do you have, that I can help answer to help you out? And so, I tell them, look, this is accountability. If you don't want to be accounted for, then don't show up. But those that want to be serious, show up. And it's been working really well. Lawrence, he'll jump on and help out. But I'm finding that that's kind of keeping the communication going, because, people are doing their own thing. And a lot of times you don't have any communication with them. So this kind of gets everybody together and helps out.
And actually, if I could just say, John is really excellent at being able to engage the people, to bring them out. For example, without making any names, but they're people that are shy, people that don't like to talk in public, the people that are not sure how to express themselves in many ways. And this is one of the things that John does on the Ruby call. His Ruby call is he'll give each person put them on the spot. But because there's an intimacy there, because there's a relationship, an empathetic relationship, he gets the people to get out of their shy zone and to start talking about themselves. And then they talk about their kids and so on and so on. But then they start to communicate better. And this is something that is huge. Communication is one of the biggest assets we can have in this business if we learn to communicate correctly.
One of the other things that John does really, really well is he does a getting started, an 8-week getting started call for our entire team, and he does a fantastic job of walking everybody through, A to Z, how to get started in the business, what you should be doing, how you should be doing it. And I think that's vitally important for some people, not everybody, but some people that aren't entrepreneurial, they need a little bit more. They need a little bit more. They're not going to just read the handbook and say, okay, I'm ready to go. They need a little bit more hand holding, and they need somebody to give them those valuable resources and give them the nutrients that they need to flourish. Steve, you have your hand up?
Yeah, so I just trained a new office yesterday, and it's an optometrist. She's been on product for like 6 months. She ordered the scanner at the end of September because she wanted to get the Lumi Spa promotion, and she ordered it the last day of the month, and she canceled a couple times because she had a lot of things going on, and we just maintained the relationship. And I said, don't worry. And we got it scheduled for yesterday, and she had all of her staff up and running because we had done a training. Actually, we did a couple training calls prior to the meeting. And when I went in there, I did a little pep talk to the staff about the importance of nutrition and the impact they could make, and why health should be a priority and the problems that we have. And, I got a lot of feedback that really made an impact on the staff to really set the stage in, why this is good for their patients, not just the fact that this is a business and here's the mechanics on how to do it, but really about, you guys have such a great way of a great opportunity to help your patients. And then, stuck with them throughout the day. I recorded a little video of their practice, which I was surprised that it came out pretty well, because that's the first time I ever did that. It wasn't very fast-paced practice, and it's like, I'm just going to record a little video of this and edit an iMovie. And if anyone wants to learn how to do that, I'm happy to do a training call on it, because it's actually pretty simple, and I think it's a really great thing to do in these practices. And got the staff waving, got them engaged, and just made them feel good that they were doing something good and they were doing a good job. and they were winning. We went over the scoreboard and tracking the scoreboard, and now we've got a follow-up call next week to see how things are working, and then we have another follow-up call the following week. So those follow-up coaching calls are so important, so they know that there's a support system there. And I've made a lot of mistakes with integration where we just kind of train them and we think that they're going to be good, but really our role is to not just train, but to be a coach and a mentor to them, because they're going to fall off the bike. Expect them to fall off the bike and get off track. And, that's why we've worked so hard and, getting this 4 disciplines of execution up and running, because it's really about, tracking those lead measures, setting parameters where they can win at, and then having that weekly call with accountability and tracking. And so, it just worked really well in this practice. And those follow-up calls I think are really, really key and critical for training offices. And then after we had that day, I texted the upline, which is Greg Caldwell and Trevor, let them know, hey, we had a great day. We signed up 6 patients today, got them engaged. They reached out and congratulated the doctor on that. And, we just created this fun team, this environment there. And I think it just it just felt really good. And some practices embrace it more than others. But I think that if we can, do what you guys are talking about, which is, how do you make those connections? What's that follow up and that follow through to create that continuous engagement, and to shift from, hey, we celebrated, we signed someone up, or, hey, we did their training, to really, coaching them and seeing how they're doing and making those course corrections along the way.
Listening to their needs and then providing solutions, right? And so, if you do that properly, that's going to cultivate strong teams, strong environments, strong relationships, but you have to do it properly. Like Steve's saying, you can't just come in, train them and leave. You need to let them know up front what's expected, how you do it. Come in, train them in person if you can, how to do it, and then do the follow-up calls just to kind of nurture that through the process. And I think there's some ways that we can kind of, do some of those things through emails and different content we can create to help keep them engaged long term, and also keep their patients engaged and remind their patients why they're taking the supplements. So, there's a lot of good things in the works. There's a lot of good things to come. You guys have heard some of the other calls. There's some great things going on corporately, as far as, what they're investing into this program. And I just think the next couple of years are going to be the best years yet. And so we can all grow together. That's what's cool about this. We have a network of people, where we're able to nurture each other, give each other the valuable resources that we need to be successful, and each one of us individually needs to build a network and a tribe within our own organizations. Right. So the deeper we grow, the bigger the tribe, the better we nurture that, the more people we can help.
Yeah. And this is what the calls are about: incentivizing, motivating, trying to create introspection, some guidance. Just follow systems, but follow your heart as well. It's a human business. It's a business of people. That's what we've got to focus on. And the follow-ups are essential. This is one of the things that I personally have been a big failure in just assuming everybody's going to just take the ball and run with it. It doesn't happen that way. We've got to stay with them and have that warm and fuzzy continual feeling and follow-ups. Steve, you're right. That's one of the big failures that we've always had in the past. We celebrate the placing of a scanner, and then we high five, and then we forget who the hell they were.
Yeah, I mean, if we just think about it, not our distributors, especially the new ones, this isn't as high on their priority list as it is for us. It's not as high on their priority list as we think it is or as we want it to. And, I just think of when I first got started, I had a getting started training with Richard Ellis, who was like him and Dan have known each other Dan McCormick for 30 years. He traveled the world with Anthony Robbins with Jim Rohn, who was Anthony Robbins' mentor. And, he was the main trainer for our organization and for basically Nathan Ricks's organization. And I had a personal meeting with him at his house, and I canceled 30 minutes before because my girlfriend at the time wanted to go see a movie, even though I had invested in the business. Right. And it was okay. I rescheduled. He didn't make me feel guilty or shame me or anything like that. And I just think about, like, I'm doing a camping trip with my kids with an organization. And there was a safety course that I had to take online, and I started taking it, and then I didn't get it finished. And then I was traveling, and then I took a couple of the videos and I didn't finish it. And, they just gave me a couple friendly nudges this week saying, hey, were you able to complete the safety course? Because you're not going to be able to go on this camping trip with the organization if you don't complete it. And so it was a friendly reach out and reminder, but it's your team, your distributors, your physicians, they need some guidance and some nudging in a polite, respectful way. And it's helpful. It's not intrusive. It's helpful because we all get distracted through the week and through the month. And, if you're always thinking of what's the next step with this distributor, move them forward and then help them take that next step. That's what our job is as their coach and as their sponsor.
Hello.
And I think we need to be sensitive to what they've got going on in their practice. Like Steve pointed out, their sense of urgency isn't the same as our sense of urgency, right? We get a scanner in there and we want them putting patients on product as soon as possible. But that's not, they've got a million other things going on. So we need to be sensitive to that and realize that our sense of urgency isn't this, or their sense of urgency isn't the same as ours. So we need to do this on their time, but we do need to give them that nudge occasionally to get them to do, to get to that point where we can do the training so that then it does become urgent to them, right? But we need to do it on their time or nurture them, without being annoying to get that training done and get the implementation done, right? Make it a sense of urgency for them.
Mm-hmm.
May I add a couple things?
Yep, go ahead, sir.
First of all, I want to thank John for mentioning his Ruby calls. And, I've got some core people who you probably all know who get on our Ruby call every week. And one of the things I like about the call is we have a couple of set things that we want to accomplish. So, and they have to be quantifiable. So right off the top, it's like, give me your numbers. I want your numbers. And if I made a few, no, I don't want that. I want your numbers. And we all agree, it helps to get through the numbers first. And then we go into the topics of, how we can get better that week. And then also I had an incident. This is an example for expanding your team to include some of the key members of your physicians' teams. I had one new employee came in, and on her total initiative, she found out about the new scanner app, and she read up about it and asked me about it. Next thing I know, she implements it, and last month she increased their volume $2,000. So I could have just said, "Great job." No, I sent a long text to the doctor telling him what an excellent employee he's got and what she accomplished for him. And then lastly, I'd like to do a shout out. Yesterday happened to be a very cold and rainy day in Tucson, Arizona. And Dee Dee Van Boeven did a health fair for a corporation. And she's sitting out in her car wondering, do I go out to this table? Because it was outdoors. And damn if she didn't get out there, and she scanned a lot of people. So she has a lot of follow-ups to do. But you know what? A lot of people would just, say, yeah, this is a bad day. I'm not sticking around, whatever. Dee Dee never does that. She's always there till the end of the event. And,
on that note, Jim, I had to call your wife. She would encourage me because I'm like, what am I doing? She's just,
Well, that's great. And that's where that communication's key for all of this. And that's where it goes two ways. So Dee Dee and my wife, they love each other. And Dee Dee felt comfortable. I'm having a bad day. I'm calling Donna, and it works. Because you know what that did, Dee Dee? It also made Donna's day better.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for that.
All right, everybody, we're running past 10 o'clock. I think we had a hard stop at 10. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks everybody for joining our call today. I hope it was useful. I hope there was some great information on here, and thanks for, taking time out of your busy schedules to be here with us. Really appreciate it. Don't forget about the Monday and Wednesday calls at 9:30. And we'll see everybody next week. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks very much. Great call as always.